UFC 309 Jones versus Miocic is coming up this weekend, and I'm here to go through every single fight on the card and give my prediction and breakdown for who I think is going to win and how. Honestly, this is a pretty disappointing pay-per-view. There's not too much going on. I mean, it's not awful, but, you know, it's not UFC 308. It's not even UFC 307, honestly. But, you know, it's got Jon Jones. It's got Stipe Miocic. Double retirement fight in all likelihood. So I guess it's got that going for it. Co-main event is obviously going to be a banger as well. But we're going to start with the early prelim opener, which is Veronica Hardy versus Eduardo Moura. I don't know how you say her name. Veronica Hardy is the favorite. I'm going to go with Eduardo Moura. Split decision loss to Diniz Gomez. I don't really mind that. Other than that, I'm seeing a lot of finishing potential on the side of Eduardo Moura. TKO, submission. Seems like very grapple heavy. Veronica Hardy, I'm seeing no finishing potential. I'm seeing split decision to Jamie Lynn Horth. You know, it's whatever. It's a decent win. She was undefeated at the time. JJ Aldrich decision win. You know, I'm seeing decisions on Hardy's side. I'm seeing finishing potential with Eduardo Moura. So I'm just going to trust the finishing potential of Eduardo Moura over Veronica Hardy. So I'm going to start the card with an underdog. I'm going with Eduardo Moura by submission over Veronica Hardy. Bassil Hafez versus Oban Elliott. No odds posted for this fight. But I would have to imagine that Oban Elliott is probably a favorite, and I'm going to pick him over Bassil Hafez. If he's an underdog, I'm picking another underdog, but I can't imagine he is after Bassil Hafez's last performance. He looked terrible against Mickey Gall. Really bad. Like, he went life and death with Mickey Gall, split decision, and people were saying Mickey Gall has a case to win that fight. Like, it was a close fight. And, you know, this isn't the Bassil Hafez that went to a split decision with Jack Della Maddalena on short notice, right? Like, I think it's safe to say that might have been a fluke. All right, short notice. Jack Della Maddalena kept pulling guillotines. You know, he didn't have the best fight IQ in that fight. And, you know, I just can't pick Bassil Hafez to win a fight after doing that with Mickey Gall. That's just what it comes down to. Oban Elliott, I'm not super impressed with him either. His fight against Val Woodburn, who, if you don't know who Val Woodburn is, he is the full-time landscaper that the UFC brought in to fight Bo Nickal when, I want to say, Trayshawn Gore pulled out of their fight. They gave Val Woodburn a contract, and Bo Nickal, like, slept him in 30 seconds or something. And then they gave him to Oban Elliott because they didn't want to cut him right away because they did him a favor. So here you go. Here's one last chance. Here's Oban Elliott. And honestly, he had moments in that fight. He had moments. He rocked Oban Elliott in round one. But Oban Elliott did get the win. But, you know, I'm not particularly impressed from either one of these people, to be completely honest. But I think I'm going to go with Oban Elliott over Bassil Hafez. I just can't pick you after going life and death with this guy right here, Mickey Gall, who is fighting Ramiz Brahimaj. I'm probably going to go with Ramiz Brahimaj. You know, because it's a Mickey Gall. I don't really need to say anything. Although, maybe you think maybe you think Bassil Hafez really is good and Mickey Gall had such a close fight with him. That means Mickey Gall is actually really good. I don't think anyone actually thinks Mickey Gall is really good. But I'm going to pick Ramiz over Mickey Gall in that one. Headlining the early prelims is Marcin Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. Oh man, no odds for this one either. Who would they even have as a favorite? Probably Tybura. If I had to guess, he is a top 10 heavyweight. He did just lose to Sergey Spivak, but Jhonata Diniz isn't going to shoot a takedown. He's a Glory kickboxer. I do believe he's coming from Glory. Put out Austin Lane, beats Carl Williams, who is another grappler. You got to imagine Marcin Tybura is going to grapple in this fight. It's just, is he going to get him down? and have his way with him? Or is Jhonata Diniz going to catch him? That's what this comes down to. Are you picking Diniz by KO, or are you picking Tybura by submission or decision? And I think I'm going to go with Marcin Tybura, I think. I'm going to be honest. This might be like the reason why I'm picking Tybura. And this makes no sense at all, by the way. This is completely illogical. But I just cannot picture a number 9 next to Jhonata Diniz's name. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. I just can't like picture that in my brain. It doesn't like compute. So therefore, he's not gonna win this fight because then he would be in the top 10. And I just can't see that happening. So I'm gonna go with Marcin Tybura to win this fight with his grappling. He is going to be more willing to shoot than Carl Williams, who literally only shoots takedowns. Despite being a very good grappler, he only shoots takedowns when he is about to be face first, unconscious on the canvas. So Marcin Tybura, I think he's going to shoot early, and he's going to shoot often if he doesn't get it. And I think he is going to beat Jhonata Diniz by second round submission. It's going to be my pick there. Now for the prelims, we got David Onama versus Lucas Almeida. Is this fight happening? I feel like Lucas Almeida pulled out. I want to say Lucas Almeida pulled out. Maybe I'm just like completely schizophrenic and making things up. I'm pretty sure he pulled out. But if he didn't, I'm going to pick David Onama to beat Lucas Almeida, but I'm pretty sure this fight isn't happening, so I'm not going to talk about it. Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. Did I see that right? Is Jim Miller an underdog? He is. Jim Miller is an underdog against Damon the Hairline Jackson. I'm picking Jim Miller, man. Like, Jim Miller, sure, he got the snot beat out of him by Bobby Green. Okay, it's whatever. Bobby Green, or Damon Jackson is not Bobby Green. There's a level in the UFC that Jim Miller just like smokes you, and there's a level where Jim Miller just, you smoke him. Bobby Green is that cutoff. Bobby Green would beat Damon Jackson, therefore Jim Miller's gonna beat Damon Jackson. I like it. This makes no sense. I understand it's MMA math. Damon Jackson, he has no chin. Jim Miller does have power in his hands, so I could see Jim Miller putting him out. I could see Jim Miller using his wrestling and putting a wrestling clinic on Damon Jackson. I just think there's more ways to win for Jim Miller than there are for Damon Jackson. So I'm going to pick Jim Miller to KO Damon Jackson in round 3. That's going to be my pick. Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders in Big 2024. I'm picking Eryk Anders purely because Chris Weidman cheated brutally in his last fight against Bruno Silva. I don't care that he's coming back from a gruesome leg break. Like, he cheated. He double eye poke comboed Bruno Silva and then like celebrated it and said, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have tried to milk the injury and maybe you would have won." He's not milking an injury, dude. You poked him in the eye twice, like in both eyes at the same time. He's not milking it, bro. Like, so purely because Chris Weidman's a little, I can't stand him after that win. I'm picking Eryk Anders. Eryk Anders is absolute garbage. Chris Weidman's old, so who really cares at the end of the day? This is a pay-per-view card, by the way. I'm going to go Eryk Anders by decision. And now here's the first fight I really care about. Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. What are these odds? Marcus McGhee is a very slight favorite. Okay, this is interesting. I'm going to go with Marcus McGhee, and I'm going to tell you right now, Marcus McGhee is my lock of the card. I think there's absolutely no way that Marcus McGhee is going to lose to Jonathan Martinez. I am so confident in this. Marcus McGhee, he is infinitely more well-rounded than Jonathan Martinez. I've said this time and time again about Jonathan Martinez. Any chance I get to talk about him. Jonathan Martinez, he has leg kicks. He has really, really good calf kicks. That's it. If you can take away his calf kicks, whether you stay out of range, you check, whatever you have to do, if you can take the low leg kicks out of Jonathan Martinez's arsenal, he becomes incredibly, incredibly simple to beat. And Marcus McGhee, he's got really good fight IQ. He's very good in the stand-up. He's very athletic. He's not a guy that's going to be flat-footed in front of Jonathan Martinez where he can just chop away with his low leg kicks and get a leg kick TKO. And his boxing, I think Marcus McGhee's a better boxer. I think he's a better kickboxer. I think he's infinitely better in the grappling. I just can't see. Marcus McGhee is just too smart to get leg kicked to death by Jonathan Martinez. That's how I see it. I think this is the lock of the card, in my opinion. I'm really surprised that Marcus McGhee is only minus 115. Like, this is nearly a pick'em. I was really, really surprised because I think Marcus McGhee is going to wipe the floor with Jonathan Martinez. I think he's going to make it look incredibly easy. I'm going to go Marcus McGhee by second round KO. Second round KO over Jonathan Martinez. I just don't see it with him, man. He's got some good leg kick TKOs. But again, if you can just take that away, he's not much of a threat. He has no grappling. His boxing is not good. He doesn't have a lot of power in his hands. You know, I just think Marcus McGhee, he's going to be able to solve that puzzle. It's going to be a little too easy. Marcus McGhee, round 2 KO. That's going to be my pick. Main card. Mauricio Ruffy versus James Llontop. I remember when this fight got put together, actually, the odds came out, and it was, like, incredibly close. And I remember tweeting, I think Ruffy was only, like, a minus 250 favorite or something. And I remember tweeting, I'm like, okay, that's awful. He's going to be, like, minus 400 by the time fight night comes. Turns out he's minus 750. And I think that's very fair because James Llontop, I don't think he has a win in the UFC. I know he lost to Chris Padilla. And he lost to someone else. Who did he lost to someone else. I'm pretty sure he's 0-2 in the UFC. Like, I'm almost positive. In fact, I'm going to look right now. No, it was Vyacheslav Borshev. Right. He lost to Vyacheslav Borshev, Slava Claus, and then he lost to Chris Padilla in his UFC debut. So he's 0-2 in the UFC. Mauricio Ruffy is coming off a KO win over Jamie Malarkey, who is, I think, better than James Llontop. I mean, yeah, I think he already KO'd a guy that's better than James Llontop or Llontop, however you say it. I don't know. I always thought double L was like a Y sound in like Spanish-speaking countries. You know, Llontop. I'm pretty sure it's Llontop, but whatever. He already KO'd a guy that's better than James Llontop, and now he's facing James Llontop. I think he's going to KO him. Fighting nerds, they're on fire. The big four, Ruffy, Prates, Braulio, and Gene Silva. I think it's going to be a while until we see one of them lose, I think. And James Llontop is certainly not going to be the one to do it. I'm going to go Mauricio Ruffy by first round KO. Viviane Araujo versus Karine Silva. Oh my lord. I mean, I would imagine you got to go Karine Silva. It just kind of seems like one of those no-brainers, right? I mean, she's like undefeated in the UFC. Viviane Araujo is coming off a loss to Natalia Silva. Like, you know, I'm just going to go Karine Silva. I don't really care. Bo Nickal. Speaking of not really caring, Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. I'm going with Bo Nickal to beat Paul Craig because he's fighting Paul Craig. Paul Craig, he's probably going to knock him out. Like, Paul Craig doesn't have a chin. You know, Paul Craig, he's funny. He's like, oh, wow, I'm going to lose to all of these bums and then, like, submit Jamal Hill and Magomed Ankalaev. You know, it's just if he doesn't latch up the fluke submission, and he also beat Andre Muniz, by the way, and then he, like, loses to you know, Braulio, Brendan Allen, Johnny Walker, Uzdemir. He is 1-4 in his last 5. So, yeah, Bo Nickal's probably going to knock him out on the feet. I could see that happening. Obviously, he could wrestle, but I think, why would you? You know, why would you want to end up with the possibility of Paul Craig winning when you could just, like, knock him out on the feet? Like, if you shoot for a takedown, you're just playing into his game. You're giving him the chance to latch up a triangle and submit you as a minus 1,000 favorite. So I think Bo Nickal's probably going to keep this on the feet and KO Paul Craig in round 1. I think that's how this fight goes. Paul Craig, he doesn't have it anymore. I think he's done. Bo Nickal, round 1 KO. That's the pick. Co-main event, Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. I'm going with Charles Oliveira. I'm going with Charles Oliveira. I mean, Michael Chandler, man, he's dangerous. It's scary, man. It's scary because Michael Chandler is dangerous. He is explosive. He is athletic. He has that ability to just put your lights out. And Charles Oliveira does have a suspect chin. You know, maybe Michael Chandler, this fight, he can find the off switch and put him out cold. Maybe he can finish the job this time. He was winning. He won round 1. He almost knocked out Oliveira in round 1. Maybe this time he can actually get it done. But it's like, I just can't pick him, man. He's been out for like 2 years waiting on McGregor. I can't pick Michael Chandler. The layoff is too long. He's too old. Oliveira's active. He had a very, very close fight with Arman Tsarukyan, who is the #1 contender. He's next in line for a title shot. One of the best young prospects in the lightweight division. He had a very close fight with him that I thought he clearly lost, but some people gave it to Oliveira because they're biased, but I get it. It was close. He had his moments. So if you're having moments against Tsarukyan, who I don't think anyone beats that's not named Makhachev, if I'm being completely honest. If you're having moments against Tsarukyan, I think you still got it. And there's no telling if Michael Chandler still got it because we haven't seen him in so long. So I think you got to go Charles Oliveira. And he could make it look easier than he did in the first fight. He could get him out of there in 1. I'm going to go round... No, I'm going to go round 3 submission for Charles Oliveira. Round 3 submission, Charles Oliveira. That's the pick. Just can't pick Michael Chandler, man. Too long. Too long of a layoff. Too old. There's no telling what he looks like. I know he's been keeping in shape because McGregor's been, like, edging him. Like, oh, we're fighting here, we're fighting here, we're fighting here. So he's not like he's going to be out of shape for 2 years or whatever. But, you know, it's the ring rust, 2 years out of the cage. Got to go Oliveira, man, especially after the performance against Tsarukyan. You know, I think Tsarukyan's way better than Chandler, and if he can look that good against Tsarukyan, I think he can beat Chandler once again. But again, Chandler has that puncher's chance. He's very, very explosive, very powerful, very dangerous, and I am worried. But Charles Oliveira is going to be the pick. Round 3 submission in the co-main event. And for the main event, the fight no one's looking forward to, Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the interim heavyweight championship, because Tom Aspinall is the real champion, of course. Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, you gotta go Jon Jones. Like, no one cares about this fight. He's a minus 625 favorite. Who cares? Like, who cares? You know, Stipe is 42 years old. He hasn't fought in 3 years. 3 years. That's no exaggeration. He is 3 years removed from the octagon, and he's getting a title shot. You heard that correctly. 3 years. He hasn't fought in 3 years, and he's coming back to an immediate title shot. And guess what? His last fight, he was brutally flatline KO'd, folded like a lawn chair by Francis Ngannou. Yes, Francis Ngannou, the guy who boxed Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, and then had an MMA match. He's fought 3 times since he folded Stipe in 2021. Yes, that guy was the last time Stipe fought, where he got folded brutally and KO'd. 3 years, coming off a brutal KO. He is old. He is washed up. Jon Jones, he's also old, but, you know, he's not that old. Like, I mean, you compare him to Stipe, he's like a spring chicken. Jon Jones is probably going to take him down and finish him with elbows from full mount, or submit him. Who knows, man? I'm just, you cannot pick Stipe. He's got good boxing. He's got good power. But, man, he's 42, and the layoff is just, you cannot expect me to pick Stipe Miocic coming off a 3-year layoff. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going Jon Bones Jones by round 2 TKO from ground and pound. He's going to retire. He's going to duck Tom Aspinall. And he's going to ride off into the sunset with his fake belt and his fake legacy, fighting a 42-year-old Stipe in a fight that no one cares about. But Jon Jones is the pick. I think no one's surprised by that. But let me know what you guys think. Are you actually picking Stipe Miocic to beat Jon Jones? Are you picking Michael Chandler to beat Charles Oliveira? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.